Hello, guys. I am back with a new MBTI Bullies assessment video, and today we're going to be talking about, and non-sarcastically, this is one of my favorite types, INFPs, and how INFPs can be bullies. This is another one of those types where it's kind of like, what? They're bullies? They can bully? What? How? Like I said, and I say it in almost every episode, there's a spectrum of violence. Um, and on the very far end, you have passive aggressiveness, manipulation. Then on the other end, you have murder, and physical violence, and then everything else in between. So, where do INFPs stand? Where do they sit on this spectrum? Um, I say they definitely fall anywhere between manipulation and assertiveness. I think it's pretty rare. They may have, in extreme times, may show some aggressiveness, but I think they pretty much stay within passive aggressiveness, manipulation, and assertiveness. Now, how do they do this? How are they able to do this? I'm going to look at the ego block. So you want to look at introverted feeling and you want to look at extroverted intuition. Introverted feeling is their number one weapon. And the thing is that because they have such strong ethics and empathy, they're able to understand people at at the atomic level, at the subatomic level. They get people. And so luckily for as in non-INFPs, they usually use it for good. Like they usually use it to empathize with people, to understand people, and to help people think of things that they wouldn't normally think of, using their extroverted intuition. But there are times that either whether they feel crossed in some sort of way or they stop extending a certain level of empathy or understanding towards people, in which case they may or may not become self-serving or self-victimizing and show like bullying traits. I'm going to start with two examples because I haven't really encountered INFP bullies like that, but I have seen some online, and so I'm going to give you two examples that I saw, and maybe you can relate to it. So one, definitely not saying names, but there was an instance on Twitter where there was a celebrity who had answered a regular person. Like a regular person had said something shady about a celebrity, and the celebrity replied. Now, the way the celebrity replied was it was actually pretty direct and matter of fact. It's kind of like, well, it's not this, it's this. Let's say the person had called them out for selling out, and the celebrity kind of explained themselves very simply, just kind of like, well, I didn't sign up with this company for this reason, da da da. They just very simple. There was nothing else there. If you're someone who's gonna feel very like shamed quickly, you're gonna feel ashamed because you're not expecting A-list celebrity of a certain caliber to respond to you, so you're gonna feel instantly ashamed. However, by the same token, you were the one who did that in the first place. You were the one who put it out there, called that celebrity out, and you were one out of 10 million people, and they didn't even call you out. They just responded. Now, the INFP in question wasn't the person. It was the INFP in question was friends to the person that called this celebrity out. And the INFP quote tweeted all this and said, how dare this person, like hate on broke people? Don't they have something else to do with their millions? Blah, blah, blah. This is really disgusting. This is why, blah, blah. And got very self-righteous with it. And I'm looking at it, and the person that responded in the first place that kind of created all this was like, oh, wow, I didn't think that you would respond to me, referring to the celebrity. And, this is how I feel. And then they started to, write a long thread trying to explain themselves and backtrack. And it's like, you're valid for calling a celebrity out, but the celebrity is also valid to, like, say something very simply, just defending themselves. Like, it's not like they were being extra rude either. In which case I would say, oh, that's kind of petty. And answering that person is not petty. So because the INFP was friends with the person that was called out, they just, launched a whole self-righteous, just a whole tirade, and then a bunch of people to like fight against the celebrity. And it was very uncalled for, and it was very self-serving, because there is a place where INFP empathy ends. And that place, I personally think, is when it comes to the people close to them in their life. So when it comes to people close to them in their life, they're going to throw logic out the window and just blindly defend the person that's close to them. And so that's where it ends. If you come for someone they care about, it doesn't matter whether that person's right or you're wrong, or you're right or the person's right. They're going to come to the defense of their loved one. So if you're one of their loved ones, great. If you're not, then you may be at the brunt of an IFP meltdown, or exposing some valid or semi-valid point that, you may perceive as bullying. So I think in general, when we look at destructive INFPs, oh, I had one more. The other incident that I know of was an INFP who launched this whole campaign against a professor they didn't like, and they went on like the Rate My Professor and just got everyone to like write really bad reviews about the teacher. And yeah, where you go, pretty passive aggressive. But you can see the INFP in that instance utilizing their utilizing their extroverted thinking in a way that is useful and effective. Because now when you go on that teacher's Rate My Professor, you see all these shitty reviews. And according to the INFP, it was valid, but also if you're the teacher, you could consider it, bullying and assert, a certain level of bullying. So those are my two examples. Like I said, it's not a lot that I have, in terms of INFP bullies, because they're usually mad cool, super empathetic, super idealistic, and really open-minded and really non-judgmental. So I'm pretty sure 8 out of 10 just instances that you may have with an INFP is probably positive. So what else? So you might see that like a destructive or just kind of like bullying INFP will get into this mode of being super self-righteous and super morally superior. Because in some ways, they do hold themselves to a high level of ethics and a higher standard than most people hold themselves to. And there can get a time where they utilize some of that INFJ martyrdom, and they might be, retreating from the world or just kind of like judging people. And, just get really harsh, towards people because they're not living up to the fantasies in their head of how people should act and how people should behave. And, there's many different introverted types that are also guilty of this, because in general, being an introvert, everything starts mentally. Everything starts internally in terms of what we expect from others. And everything gets lost in translation. So a secret that the extroverts know is do, right? You do, you adjust, right? The introverts over here, myself included, we're like, you think about it, you plan, or you feel it out, and then you act accordingly. But the act part, the do part, is always secondary. Likewise, I think you could also see INFPs just kind of like pull inward and just, live in their fantasy world, and get kind of defensive and maybe even, pull back from someone or ignore someone and give them the silent treatment, which if you've never been on the receiving end of the silent treatment, it is very painful, folks. I've both given the silent treatment and I've received the silent treatment, and this was hard stuff. This goes into my box that I'll titled Hard Stuff. Hard stuff, folks. It's hard. So that's definitely something in the toolbox of an INFP to protect themselves. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I've got about INFP bullies. Have you encountered an INFP bully? And if you did, what tactics did you use or tools did you use to kind of neutralize the situation? If you did neutralize it, and or how did you move past it? I would love to know. And I will see you guys in the next video. So bye, bunnies.